Hey everyone, and welcome to Fineconomy Talkies, your mad world of finance and economy. We sincerely hope that the last episode was motivating and inspirational for you, and today we bring you another episode that directly or indirectly affects each and every one of us. Today, we answer the million-dollar question that which country, India or China, stands to lose more in a likely Indian ban on Chinese trade. Today, the world is at a stage of chaos and conflict with countries running amok with each other and a virus that has upended our lives. China having waged wars with US and more recently India is at the center of the storm. The duel fought between Indian and Chinese soldiers was the turning point for the already frail relations between the two neighbors, such that both have been at each other's throats ever since. India's resentment towards China isn't singular, as the nation is facing a lot of flack from the international community over its hostile override of Hong Kong's judiciary system and its oppressive communist political regime. India is currently mulling over possible trade sanctions and bans that could help it pressurize and leverage China. The key questions as a reader, citizen, and a leader to ask in these circumstances are 1. How dependent is India on China and vice versa? 2. How will it affect the quality of living in India? And 3. Will it affect businesses, livelihoods, and employment? While these questions are meant for you to think over, I will most certainly be walking you over them to provide you a detailed but brief analysis of the trade tensions simmering between the two neighbors. The befitting reply from India to China's attack has called into speculation the reliance that each country has on the other. While India exports $18 billion worth of goods to China, China exports a whopping $68 billion worth of goods to India. While the trade deficit does look damning for India, the odds are far worse for China as it stands to lose a lot more in the scenario of a Chinese trade ban by India. We outsource key pharmaceutical ingredients, machinery, technological components, and many other things from them. Thus, Chinese companies will face the possibility of seeing one of their arteries being cut, which would cause deep damage. Things won't be all that good for India too, as the cost of production for products reliant on Chinese imports would rise. This would happen due to a rise in cost of components due to the supply from non-Chinese and thus more expensive outlets. Also, this would result in short-term supply chain disruptions that will further elevate the cost of production. This would translate to lower exports due to tighter profit margins and products that would become dearer to the Indian consumer. While that is one part of the picture, the other side suggests something similar but still different. The other piece of the puzzle answers to a second question, that is, till what degree will the ban affect the Indian consumer? Well, the Indian consumer stands to lose a lot, as they would lose access to better, affordable, and far more advanced products. Think about the Oppo, Vivo, Xiaomi, or the OnePlus phones that are giving crores of Indians access to features and technology at affordable prices while being at par with the likes of Apple and Samsung. With a possible ban, those countless Indians will lose access to technology and products that used to give them the opportunity to enjoy the convenience offered by these advanced technologies. This is just one example in a host of others, as scores of Indians have for long relied on Chinese products that are affordable but uncompromising on features. Things are equally as bad for Chinese companies as well. They stand to lose access to one of the most lucrative and largest consumer markets in the world. This loss would result to the benefit of rival non-Chinese firms who would gain the opportunity to claw their way into the Chinese shareholding of markets and thus erode the profits of Chinese businesses. Further continuing that rationale, we are delving into the final question of my analysis, that is, will businesses, livelihoods, and employment get affected? The answer is a sad yes. Yes, because many Indian firms depend entirely on Chinese markets for business, with many more relying on Chinese investment for financial backing. China has a strong foothold in our economy due to the far-reaching foreign direct investments that have come from the country in the form of large investments in the Indian stock markets and countless Indian startups. A sudden shortfall of Chinese FDI will erode investor wealth and cause many companies to go bankrupt. This would result in mass unemployment throughout the economy and cause a paradigm shift in the livelihoods of many households. On the other hand, jobs could be recreated by companies who would willingly enter or expand into industries that suddenly have a big vacuum due to the departure of Chinese businesses. This would help cancel out the job losses but not be able to fully accommodate it entirely. China too would be in a boat not too different than ours, as there too the situation would be dire, if not equally worse. Thus, as can be seen, both India and China need each other, and India more so than ever as China supports Indian exports, industry, and provides the necessary competition that makes Indian firms better and more efficient. We just cannot cut off China as they are one of our crucial bloodlines which supplies us with the oxygen we need to breathe. Any likely trade ban will have a devastating impact on both the neighbors, as we saw in the analysis. Any blow to the other has an impact on both. It's like a two-way street, my friends. One goes down and so does the other. Thus, in conclusion, any plausible Indian trade ban in China will have radioactive collateral damage that will not help either of the two Asian superpowers. So I hope you learned something out of this episode. Thank you for listening. Signing off, Aditya here.